Today's topic is the S corporation. Maybe you've heard of these before. Maybe your attorney, banker, accountant, somebody like that has recommended that you check out an S-corp. Maybe a friend of yours who's done very well in business, maybe a mentor, something like that has told you, hey man, the S-corp is the way to go. Well, we're going to clear up a few common questions, maybe some misconceptions, sprinkle a little bit of legal nerd wisdom in there. We're going to talk about 3 main benefits that an S-corp has. We're going to talk about 6 kind of restrictions and drawbacks. And then we're going to talk about maybe how you should think about this question of whether an S-corp is right for you. As always, this is not legal advice. Go talk to your own attorney. Drop a like and subscribe over there. Click the little bell. Hit a comment. Hit an email if there's something that you want to see in the next video. Let's get started. So here's your roadmap. Like I said, we've got 3 benefits of S-corps. We've got 6 drawbacks and restrictions of S-corps. But before we get to any of that, I've got a little bit of legal nerd wisdom for you. Surprise, surprise, there's actually no such thing as an S-corporation. There is no legal entity called an S-corporation. It doesn't exist. You might say, well, that's kind of weird. Weren't you just talking about S-corporations like they have all these tax benefits and drawbacks and that's the entire subject of this video? Well, yes. Here's what you need to know. An S-corp and a C-corp, legally, in the eyes of the law, are the same thing. They're both corporations. This whole S versus C distinction is entirely a tax distinction. It's based on which chapter of the Internal Revenue Code the corporation will be taxed under. Is it going to be taxed under subchapter S provisions or under subchapter C provisions? Now, everybody talks about them as if they're 2 totally separate entities, and in some ways, the requirements of the S corporation are so strict and so different, and the taxation of a C corporation is so different and so much worse that they sort of are 2 separate entities, but from a legal perspective, these are both corporations, and there are no differences in kind in terms of their formation documents, how they're run, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to have bylaws, they're going to have a certificate of formation, they're going to have minutes, they're going to have officers, there's certain things that they're required to have under state law. It is entirely a tax distinction. Benefit number 1, an S corporation provides a barrier between the business's assets on the one hand and personal assets on the other. Now, you can achieve this same benefit by using any number of other business entities, whether it be C corporations, LLCs, LLPs, partnerships. S corporations are one of those things that, if properly done and consult your attorney, seals off the business assets from the personal assets. The second major benefit of an S corporation is that you avoid double taxation. I'm going to throw up a graphic of a C corporation here. This is what's happening with the taxes in a C corporation. The earnings are taxed once when they flow from the marketplace into the entity as profit. Then, when those earnings are distributed to the shareholders, they get taxed again as dividends. As a result, the effective tax rate on those dollars going from endpoint to endpoint in that process is significantly higher than if they were only taxed once. Well, that's what an S-corp does. An S-corp says, look, these are all going to collapse into one, and it's all going to be taxed as ordinary income of the shareholders. Now, is this unique among corporate entities? Absolutely not. You can achieve functionally pretty close to the same thing, or exactly the same thing, depending on your circumstances, with either an LLC electing disregarded treatment or with a partnership. But if you want to do it with the corporate form, an S-corp is your option. In contrast to those 2 that we just talked about, the third benefit of an S corporation is truly unique to an S corporation. It allows you to avoid some percentage of payroll and self-employment taxes by treating part of the income as wages and part of the income as a distribution. That second part will not be subject to payroll and Medicare taxes. This is the magic of an S corporation because that tax is 15-point-something% or less depending on your income level. If you are in an LLC, on the other hand, the entire thing is going to be subject to self-employment tax. And I'm not even going to get into how complex partnership taxation is. A quick note on that third benefit, you need to watch all the way to the end of the video because there's a way that you can kind of mess this up and end up hurting yourself. So watch the whole thing. The first major drawback of an S-corp is that you can only have one class of stock. If you look at publicly traded companies or really big companies, virtually all of which are C-corps, and we'll talk about why that is in a minute, they can have tremendously complicated capital structures, and this has to do with incentives and who values what, and et cetera, et cetera. There's some really good reasons for that. They'll have common class A, common class B, common class C, preferred series 1, preferred series 2, preferred series 800. They can have all kinds of different classes of stock and do some really neat stuff in the capital markets. S corporations can't do that. They issue one class of stock and that's it. Drawback number 2 of an S corp is that you can only have 100 shareholders. Once Mr. 101 comes into the room, or Mrs. 101, get ready to pay some more taxes and it's going to be really expensive. I don't care how great that person's investment opportunity is. 101 shareholders means you are no longer an S corporation. The third drawback of an S corp is not so much of a genuine drawback as it is a restriction on one of the other cool kind of things that you can do with an S corp. So remember when I was talking about you can take your income as an S corp and split it into 2 sort of piles, and one of those is a distribution and the other one is payroll, and that allows you to reduce your payroll taxes a little bit. Well, your income has to be reasonable, meaning you can't pay yourself $1. So an IRS agent is going to say, "Oh, well, look, you're a world-class attorney, or you're a heart surgeon. You had $5 million in distributions and you paid yourself a salary of $1. Yeah, right, buddy. Your S corp election is gone. So you have to be paying yourself a quote-unquote reasonable salary. What does that mean? That gets into legal advice. That's a whole other thing. But it has to be reasonable in the eyes of an IRS agent. Drawback number 4 of an S corp is your shareholders can only be U.S. persons. So U.S. citizens, U.S. permanent residents. You can't have foreign shareholders, meaning all that overseas money that's trying to invest in your company, well, pick another form because you're not going to be an S corp. Drawback number 5 of an S corporation, and those of you who are chasing VC money or private equity or anything like that, get ready to hate me, but all of the shareholders of the S corporation must be natural persons, meaning an entity may not be a shareholder. So that fund or that rich uncle or whoever was going to invest through their little investment LLC, that's not happening. All of the shareholders must be natural persons. And the 6th drawback of the S corporation is that it's a corporation and you have to comply with all the formalities that corporations have. This is the oldest business entity that we have. It goes way, way, way back to like the 1500s originally. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that has been done away with for more modern forms like the LLC. Guess what? If you're a corporation, you have to comply with all of that stuff, whether it's relevant for you or not. So you're dealing with a business entity form that's a little bit more restrictive. So that's it for today. Again, just because I said something on this video doesn't mean it necessarily applies to your situation. And conversely, if I didn't say something on this video, it still may be extremely important for your situation. Every one of y'all's businesses is unique, and there's exceptions, and there's exceptions to the exceptions, and exceptions to the exception to the exception. So it's very important that you get on the same page with your attorney, your banker, your financial advisor, your accountant, whoever your professionals may be. Get those people on your team, line up all these factors, look at it against your business model, and decide what's the right option for you. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. Hit the like and subscribe over there. Send me a comment or an email if there's something else that you want to see. And please take care, and we'll see you next time.